Let's explore our default tangent types. This is another option we'll want to check for before any keyframes are created. Our tangent types are essentially how we transition between each keyframe. So you can see in this example, to polish this animation, a smooth tangent type was used. Let's take a look at the options we have in Max. We will delve deeper into the tangential properties we can modify in Max, but for right now, I just want to show you where this setting lives. So right next to our Set Key button, we'll find our default tangent types. So at the top, this is a way of smoothing out all of our keyframes. However, we don't have access to the tangents to manually modify them. So for character animations, we may not want to use this choice, but for more simplified animations, this might be a good choice to use. Next, we have Set Tangents to Linear, which is a way of setting the rate between each keyframe to a constant speed. We use this, for example, to make sure that our character's feet don't slide in our walk cycle and run cycle tutorials. So if you'd like to learn more about that, feel free to take a look at how this option can be used. Next, we have Set Tangents to Step. I actually started this animation with this mode, simply because this is a great way of focusing on our poses and our timing without the distraction of smooth interpolation. If you'd like to learn more about this, feel free to take a look at our blocking techniques course. And we also have our polishing techniques course if you'd like to learn how to go from your blocking to your polishing pass. It can be confusing at times, so we teach you techniques on how to do that, how to manage your keyframes. And then following that, we have Set Tangents to Slow, which is a way of creating a smooth transition out of your key. But then we have a more faster transition as we start to enter into a keyframe. And the next option does just the opposite of that, Set Tangents to Fast. Now the last two choices here are going to give us full control over the tangential properties of each keyframe. So this next choice, Set Tangents to Custom, is a way of going in and adjusting the orientation and length of each key. Whereas the last choice is a way of kind of refreshing your tangency. So if you notice that a keyframe was creating an overshoot in your animation, and we'll take a look at that shortly, we could always use Set Tangents to Auto to gain control over that tangent and to smooth it out. It'll essentially go ahead and zero out the orientation of that tangent so we can remove those overshoots. So now that we have an option to do that, this is a great way then of going in and looking for any problems where we have those types of issues, so we can go ahead and apply auto tangency. I love to use this to start out with, and then when we're ready to kind of finalize things, we could always work with custom tangents. And here's how Max handles this. Once we have an auto tangent set, as we start to tweak that tangency, it's automatically going to be converted to a custom tangent. All right, so now that we have an idea of all of these options, we're now ready to take a look at how they will affect our work, because you'll notice that if we go ahead and set any one of these right now, it's not going to change anything. This is for newly created keyframes. All right, so if we were to now head over to our top toolbar, we can go ahead and grab the selection set in the scene to grab all of the creature's animation controls. So with all of these selected, we can now right-click and grab our curve editor. Now we will be delving into this editor. It's very important for fine-tuning our work, but I just want to kind of show you, again, what those options will do. Very quickly, to navigate in this editor, it's essentially what we would use to navigate in our viewports. We can go ahead and pan with the middle mouse button. We can use Control-Alt and the middle mouse button to zoom in and out. And notice it is an interactive zoom, so we can get really close to our function curves and adjust our tangency that way. Let's go ahead and highlight all of our keyframes and take a look at these options. So notice we have Set Tangents to Smooth, and you can see that it's going to create overshoots, at least in a few parts of the sequence. So if we were to go ahead and play the animation back, you can see that our character kind of jumps at the start of the animation. And if you like that, well, that's totally cool, but that's probably not going to be a good choice. And then when we go back to the curve editor, we can go ahead and work with linear. Again, it's going to create a robotic transition between each key. So we can take a look at what that does. And then we have set tangents to step. So if we were to go ahead and take a look at that and play through, you can see that everything is blocky. Now for something like this that's polished, we might not want to use step. But again, when we're initially starting an animation, I find this to be a great mode to work with. Believe me. Alright, so let's go ahead and go back to our curve editor and take a look at the next option, set tangents to slow. Again, this is going to create a slow interpolation as we exit each key. And set tangents to fast, the next choice is going to do just the opposite. Go ahead and take a look at that next. Alright, great. And then finally we come to set tangents to custom or spline. And then we have set tangents to auto. So as you start to work through your animation, as you start to refine each tangent, you'll notice that it is converted to a custom or spline tangent. So you can go ahead and play through that. And as of right now, this isn't the best choice because when this animation was polished, those tangents were already tweaked and already set. But as we went through our other tangent options, we noticed that that kind of tweaked each tangent to something that is not necessarily ideal in this case. But you can see how we have some sharp results here and there. Watch what happens when we use set tangents to auto. It's going to kind of flatten out each result and smooth out our interpolation. So we should notice something much better. So when we play through, we're nearly back to what we started with, which is really nice. And then if we were to go back, I'll just go ahead and pause the animation. If we were to go back and set all of our tangents to custom or spline, take a look, you could see that those sharp results we were getting before, that's no longer the case. So all we have done is told Max that we would like to manually go in and start tweaking our tangents. So you'll see that we get the same exact result we got when we set our tangents to auto. So that's a look at our tangent types. Again, we will look into this further when we learn how to really modify our tangents to polish animation and to get the look that we would like to see from our performances. Well, that's a look at this lesson on how to modify our default in and out tangent types in Max. In the following lesson, we'll get right into learning how to create and modify keyframes.